So we know how to change a fraction to a decimal. That's what we covered on our last test. Now we're talking about rational numbers. We're talking about numbers that can be represented as a fraction. And so decimals fall into that category, but we need to be able to change it into a fraction. So what you need to understand to do that is that you need to understand the place value for each decimal. When you see a decimal point, you need to be able to read what the numbers mean. So for instance, before a decimal point, we know these place values. And then after a decimal point, these are the place values. So the ones place, if I have a value here, if I have two values, this is like 10, 20, 30, 100, 200, 300, and then we have thousands. Then after the decimal place, this is in the tenths place. So if there was a number here, it would be tenths. Hundredths is the second place after the decimal. Thousandths is the third place. And 10,000ths is the last place. So let's see if we can get a number in here. Okay. So for instance, this would be 243 and, decimal point is and, 1600ths. And if we know how to read the value when we have a decimal, then we'll know how to make it into a fraction. The decimal is an and. So 243 and 1600ths. Okay, so, yes, we've already said that. So to change a decimal to a fraction, you need to do this. You need to read the decimal using the correct place value. Okay, so how you say the decimal is how you're going to write the fraction. So pause the video now and write down. Change a decimal to a fraction. Read the decimal using the correct place value. And place value is what we just talked about. Each number has a specific value based on where it is placed. And how you say it determines the fraction. So pause and write that down. And then let's look at an example now. So if I have 0.2, I'm not going to read it as 0.2. I have to realize that this 0 is in the ones place. This is an and, but I don't really need the and because there's nothing here. So I can just read where the 2 is. The first place after the decimal is the tenths place. This is 2/10 because the 2 is in the tenths place. That's the first place after the decimal. So if it's 2/10, then I know that the fraction is 2/10. So write down 0.2 is 2/10, and that means that I write it over 10. Well, now I have a fraction. And I can simplify it into lowest terms. So pause the video now and put 2/10 into lowest terms. Okay, now that you've done that, you should have gotten 1/5. If you divide by 2, and we have a little palm tree for some reason, and we divide by 2 is 1, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. And so you just changed 2/10 as a decimal into 1/5 as a fraction. Let's try one together. So now let's look at 0.75. But this is actually, 7 is in the tenths place, and the 5 is in the hundredths place. So this is 75 hundredths. And when I read it with its place value, then I know that it's 75/100. Now all I have to do is reduce to lowest terms. So pause the video and write 75 hundredths in lowest terms. And you should have gotten 3/4. Okay, let's try one more. Let's look at maybe one of these bigger ones, like number 4 over here. The 5 is in the tenths place. The 4 is in the hundredths place. And the last 4 is in the thousandths place. So I'm going to write this as 544 thousandths. And hopefully one thing that you're seeing is however many places are behind the decimal or how many zeros are going to go after the 1. So now pause the video and try to reduce 544 thousandths to lowest terms. And hopefully you got 68 over 125 when you put it in lowest terms. So now try a few on your own. So I want you to try number 2, number 6, and try this one and this one. And when you're done, I will come and check you.